Welcome to Molecules to Market, a program by Portfolio Planning Plus. Today, we welcome again Mr. Sanjay Gupta to continue talking about the DREAM project that we're going to set up and model in India and set up in the Portfolio Planning Plus platform. And today's topic will be about the front end of project implementation, which comprises technology selection and basic engineering. So Sanjay, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, gentlemen. It's always a pleasure to say hello to you. Trust the weather is pretty good out there. Where are you? You are in UAE or where?
Mr. Yeah, myself, my base location is UAE, exactly. Yeah.
UAE. And Mr. Uwe is where?
I'm in Germany
in
right
France,
now.
Germany, where is it? Wow, Germany. So we've got Germany, Middle East, and India. Good combination.
Yeah.
Good. Gentlemen, in the last 2 or 3 sessions, what we have tried to do is to build a project. And we have discussed the various nuances with respect to the configuration. So one aspect of the project, probably one of the starting aspects of the project have been discussed at that point of time, But I think the most important part after we have done the configuration is how do we take the project forward? And that's a question which bothers everybody. So when we talk of the front end of a project, all of us know that it could be a little bit easier to conceive what exactly one wants to set up. But the approval process has to come somewhere because somebody has to put in money in a project. So I think what we will do today is we will discuss the fundamentals on the front end side. Now in our parlance, we call it a feasibility study, a detailed feasibility study, and the basic engineering part. Now, when I say detailed feasibility, that encompasses the licensor selection also. So for the DREAM project today, I will tell you what is the sequence. How should one configure things? Configuration part is through now. Now the next part is, I have to come to an order of magnitude cost estimate. So what is the procedure of coming to that? And then converting it into a document based on which any kind of a board or a bank can take a decision. Now that is a process actually, right? So I'll tell you what we do in India because that is very interesting and that is what intrigues a lot of people. Because unlike most of the other sectors, we possibly tend to do things a little bit more differently. So I think I'll dwell on that aspect today. So there was just a background to build as to where we are and how we'll go forward. Suppose the moment a configuration is prepared, in fact, what we discussed is the ultimate aspect of something which happens prior to the configuration development. And in our parlance, and I'm quite sure that in international parlance also, that's a process of screening study. Because the idea of what we put in a complex does not come easily. One has to do a lot of option studies and convince the various stakeholders to come to something which is acceptable to everybody techno-economically. That process prior to the configuration, which we did not discuss over here, is the process of screening study in which we have a whole lot of options. We develop some macro options, and from there we start screening in, come to 2 or 3 options, and finally boil down to a configuration based on a scientific process of carrying out a prima facie techno-economic study. Because one should get a good idea as to what really the project is and is it really economical to set it up. The process of doing this is actually something which has to be done as a first step before we come to the configuration. What I did was that I have told you that, okay, I've assumed that the screening process is done. and now we have a configuration. And that is what we have been discussing in the last 3 days. So possibly that's a culmination of some supplementary work which happens behind the back in terms of doing a screening study and looking into various options and coming to this. Now in India, when we finalize a configuration, as part of the screening study itself, our tendency always is to boil down or screen it down to at least two options, maximum two, because beyond that, it is very difficult to do economic study, because every time from 2 to 1 when I'm going to come, I have to do some kind of economic study. At this stage, we do only order of magnitude estimates. So obviously, once a configuration is done, one or more than one, when we are doing option studies, we have to do a broad material balance. We have to come to the equipment capacities, unit capacities. And from there, we have a mechanism working an order of magnitude estimate. And that estimate, we can do a financial analysis on that using a software to compare the two options, or and then perhaps select one of the two based on the considered opinion of the house that okay, this is what we can possibly go ahead. This is still a direction. I mean, we haven't really put together the fine-tuned cost numbers. So the first part of the study is to build on this configuration and give it the shape of a project. So every time when a configuration is set up, most important part is two important aspects. One is that what is happening on the technology side, which is the project per se, and the second aspect is the location. Where exactly I'm going to put the plant. And there are a lot of aspects around that particular plant which are also required to carry out the feasibility study. And the third and most important part is what is the mode of implementation which we have in mind. Now, typically in the West, what I've noticed is most of the projects are built on a feed plus EPC kind of a route. That means you do a feed document, select an EPC contractor, and the EPC builds the project. That's one way of doing the project. And your intention of doing the feed is that you come to a level of detailing so that you can have an accuracy level of estimate to the level of plus or minus 10%. So in certain cases, that feed document, on the strength of the feed document, one can commit to firm costs and also go to the banks if required to seek loans or support. That's the way most of the projects we've seen. It's not that we don't do that kind of thing in India also, but those are far and few. What we tend to do is a little bit different, which I'm going to explain now. So the first document which we prepare is a feasibility report. And that is the first inception of the project. So apart from one parallel work which we are doing on the project, trying to finalize this configuration, optimize the material balances, suit it to the objective function of the plant, rationalize the capacities of the unit, rationalize the overall utility requirements, finalize the interfaces, look into the environmental considerations. These are all technology-driven issues, which are project per se requirements. But the other set of requirements, which is equally important for a project, is where the project is going to be located. What is the kind of plot where there is? What is the kind of development which you have to do for the plant? What is the kind of logistics which is available for the project? Is it possible to bring ODCs, over-dimensional cargoes in the plant to minimize site work? Is it sitting near to the sea and the shore where we can go for higher levels of modularization so that you can minimize the construction sequences? Where exactly is the plot? Logistics with respect to crude being brought into the plant and the product being evacuated. How far are my consumer centers in terms of major consumer centers, both for the refineries and both for the distillates as well as for the petrochemicals? And what would be the mode of transportation, whether it will be pipelines, roads, railways, connectivity, what are the nearest pipelines, can I connect to them? So this part of a logistic study, both in the subsea domain as well as within inshore in the plant, is very important. Third part is when we are looking into the plant, I have to look into the complexity of implementation. That means what is the magnitude of the work which is involved? What is the kind of equipment and hardware base that I will require? And where exactly broadly I'm going to do sourcing. It's a matter of a little bit more detail, of course, but I must have a broad sense because my main intention at this particular stage also would be to work an order of magnitude cost estimates. So I need to know where exactly I'm going to directionally source. Will I be able to source everything domestically? What would be the items I will have to import? So I need to have that so that I can also work out what could be the foreign exchange component. So these things are extremely important to look into the taxation aspect, uh, into the transportation aspects to work out at the total cost per se. So these are the broad things which are not directly connected with technology, but more connected with project. Third part is interfacing. Wherever I'm setting up a project of this size, there is lot of local regulation which has to be adhered to. So I have to look into what is the state government when I'm going to put it, what is the local regulation that I have to adhere to, what are the incentives that the local government gives. Because if I'm going to set up such a mega complex in any part of the country, then the state also has an incentive because the state ultimately is going to perennially gain a lot from the taxes plus economic activity around the project. So there is a certain incentive which the state government will give to the promoter in terms of a setting of a project at a particular location, right? And these incentives, let me tell you, fiscally are very, very attractive. For instance, they might say for the next 5 years, I'm not going to charge any tax. There can be something like that. Or possibly they might say that the land which is required for the project, I might give you at a certain price, which is a very subsidized price, and so many other things. So these are the other set of things which we need to look at. And third part, and also very important part, is interfacing. Because if I have to build the project, I have to look into primary logistics. How do I approach the site? Is there a proper sea connectivity? Do I have to build a jetty? What is the nearest port? What is the nearest airport? What is the nearest railway station? How am I going to bring cargo to site through inland mechanism? And even within India, if I have to bring these items, because we said that we are going to put it near to a port, then how I'm going to transport it and what is going to be the kind of cost. So these are also factors which one starts looking at this particular stage itself. So when we look at the project, we divide into two major parts. One is the technology aspects, for which we have had some discussion so far, and other is primarily related around the site, logistics, development, connectivity, facilitation. And this, to my mind, is a very major component of a project. So for the first time, when we start putting up all these things together, we detail the feasibility into the technical aspects where we study the plant, do these things. And the first document which we develop is what we call as a plot plan. Now that of course is a science in itself. If time permits at some point of time or you are interested, we can have a session on a plot plan. For example, we've conceived a modular plant or let's say this dream project which we have considered. If one has to build, I have to set these blocks in the plant. and work out what is the plant area in consideration with norms. For instance, in India, the important norm is any mega project which I set up, 33% of the land on which I put the facilities has to be greenbelt. That means if 100 acres is the plant area, 33 acres has to be dedicated to greenbelt. So I can locate the plant in the other 67 only. So that kind of stuff, there are many regulations of that nature. That is number one. The other consideration which also impacts the plant design and the project location is availability of water, because all these projects which we talk of, they require one hell of a lot of water. Where do I source the water from? Because it's not very easy to source water from perennial rivers, because there is a lot of regulation, restriction on that. So if that is not so, or partly if I get some clearance for that, one important norm which we have in the country is zero discharge. That means any effluent which I generate in the plant, we are not allowed to dispose anything outside the plant as such. So in terms of liquid effluent, I must do maximum recycling so that the water intake which is required for the project is as minimal as is possible. That is one. The other part is the raw water source. If the source is fresh water which is available from a river and one can get a clearance for that, that is fine. But when the requirements are very large, for instance, of the complex which we are talking about, the requirement would be huge. So in certain cases, we have a mix. You could source from multiple sources. One could source from river. One could also look at multiple desalination plants. So take the seawater, put a desalination plant from there, create it into raw water, and pump that raw water into the project site. It is a lot of expense. It's a lot of money which gets into it, but that's the basic infrastructure development one has to do. So water sourcing and costs thereof is another important interface which we have to look at. Third part is about power. So anytime when the site is selected, we have to see that to build the plant till such time as you have your own captive facilities, we need substantial amount of power during construction. So there has to be a mechanism for it. So either you set up plants which are, let us say, diesel generator based, so that you can have lots of power from there, or possibly you could have a grid, and from the grid you could tap the power, create a small switchyard, and then distribute power into various substations within the complex, which could facilitate construction activity. And then, of course, I'm not talking about the other details, which are, let's say, development of the plant, the site grading, leveling, uh, setting up some such site offices, setting up a colony nearby, setting up a labor colony. So all these are also costs which have to be accounted for. But all these things are also taken into consideration. Now, my brief point of letting you know is that, right? So the first document which we develop around the plant is a plot plan. And in our system, if we have to develop a feasibility report which has to be put up for prima facie clearance, our requirement is that for the total investment which is envisaged in the project, I should be able to generate plus or minus 30% accuracy level of estimate. I mean, in your parlance, sometimes you call it level 1, level 2, level 3 kind of estimates. But we can say plus or minus 30% level is required. If the accuracy level by whoever is doing this feasibility is not guaranteed to this level, the proposal itself does not go to the board. So the board will seek a confirmation that whatever is the investment which is envisaged, it is of the order of plus minus 30%. So that means I have to study the plant to sufficient detail. I have to work out sufficient quantities in the plant so that I can put a cost against it. For instance, I should look at the levels of the plant. So I must do a contour survey of the plant, work out the precise levels, and see how much I have to grade or level or I have to fill earth into the plant to bring it to a certain level and work out a cost towards it. If there is rock in the plant, I may have to do some blasting, rock cutting to level up the whole plant. I mean, all kinds of things. So what we do is we break the whole plant into thousands of activities. And all those activities in our system, once we have developed the plot plan, we quantify them. And this is where a lot of experience comes into play. You can imagine, we don't have too much of detail at this stage. What we have is an idea of the plot. Second thing is, now we have structured a plot plan, and there is a process as to how it is made and approved, because everybody has to be a party to that. Well, once I freeze this document till the end of the project, I'm not going to change it. So this is a very vital document. And in India, this document goes to various kinds of mandatory and statutory approvals. So it is approved by the consultant, it is approved by the owner, then it is approved by a statutory body. And unless that approval is there, this document is not formed up. But once this document is approved, then we don't change this document. We can make only cosmetic changes, but overall concept of the plant does not change because you have obtained all the statutory clearance. Then that particular document is utilized for implementation. So at this very early stage, once we have set up the process facilities in the complex in terms of a plot plan per se, then we utilize a lot of engineering know-how and estimation process to work out physical quantities. Everything in the plant we estimate. We do not cost anything without estimation. And in India, I think we are extremely good at that. With no detail available, since there is a lot of knowledge existing plus a lot of data bank existing on various kinds of facilities that we are talking of, we are able to estimate the quantum to a fair degree of accuracy. And since the plot plan is available, we can dimensionally also try and see that the major costs pertain to utilities and offsites, which is an important variable in all these kind of complexes, that can also be estimated. So what I'm only trying to hint is that there is a lot of estimate process which is done. And for the process, the technology part, since I already have the configuration, I have a fair idea of the unit capacities. Now, we have a very strong data bank that based on the unit capacities itself, we can work out the unit level costs. So I can work out the process costs. I can work out the utilities and offsites cost from the preliminary design, so to say, which is carried out at this stage. And we can work out all the infrastructure costs. Based on this, we put it together and sum up all these costs and then add to that many other things. For instance, there will be a technology fee, there will be a consultant's fee, then there will be interest during construction, there will be indirect taxation, there will be shipping costs depending upon what is the foreign component and domestic component, what would be the internal taxation. So all these things are accounted for to come to a bottom line number on which we always put some contingency. So in the initial stages where the level of detailing is not that high because I don't have that level of detail, there is a certain contingency which we consider at the bottom, which is also an announced number to the board as such. And with that, we arrive at the bottom line costs. Now, on the bottom line costs, which I have arrived at, now comes the tricky part where we need to know what is the mode of implementation. That is why in the sketch which I have sent to you, you will see divided into 2 or 3 blocks. So I need to know, if you look into the table out here, you will see the table, and if you can make it bigger. Yeah. No, come right down, further down. That's right. You see the table here?
Yeah.
The table at the top, you see EPCM, EPC, and BOO. Now, you see, for a project of this size, which is so large and complex, in India, of course, there is progress available, and there are agencies, one agency itself, who can do it, who can implement it on its own. But I think the world is changing, and it is always better to have good participation of various other members to get into the project. So, one way of doing a project is complete EPCM. We call it the conventional mode of implementation. And in this mode, the owner hires a consultant. The consultant does everything. They do the basic engineering, they do the detailed engineering, they do the procurement instance, they do the recommendation for purchase. Owner places the orders and the contracts, and that's how you build the project. The only problem in this mode of implementation is the owner needs to have a very large management setup on their end also, in addition to the consultant's own management team. So the project execution team is very large. But the most important advantage is it is the least cost, least schedule. That means if I look into the total implementation duration, this is the minimum duration which can come through this particular route, because we do not believe in the concept of completing engineering and then implementing. In India, we always believe in concurrent implementation. That means we keep doing engineering, we start construction early. Because in India, the critical path is always construction. So our intention is that, let's say if there is a 48-month project cycle, then we will ensure that at least 40 to 42 months is allocated toward construction. And while engineering may be 24 to 28 months, so there is a lot of overlap. Engineering is happening, and I am also starting construction in parallel. Oh, there is a sequence of course to do what I will do first, what I will do later. But what I meant to say was we do concurrent work. We do not wait for engineering to achieve a certain degree of maturity before we start construction. This way, we are able to compress our overall time cycle. So, this is one mode of implementation. We find that this is the cheapest mode of implementation. 70 to 80% of India is built on this particular route. But somewhere around, let's say, maybe something happened in 90s, 2000 also, a little bit, of course, not much. But 2010 onwards, we began to look also at EPC mode of implementation. So there was a combination. We used to have EPCM with some substantial part and some component of EPC component also in the project, maybe the smaller unit. So our criteria was that whatever is the controlling path or controlling schedule controlling unit, that we should implement on EPCM basis. For instance, in a mega complex, the Olefin complex, the FCC and CDU, they all control the project completion as such. So we will do this on the EPCM route. But, and let's say, these may require between 42 to 48 months to implement. But there may be smaller units. For instance, let's say there could be a polymer unit, there could be a hydrogen plant, there are much smaller units, where possibly the cycle time to implement may not be very large. It could be maybe 24 months, 30 months, something like that. So those are the units where we can also go for EPC mode of implementation. In EPC mode, like typically you do in the West, we develop a feed document, select an EPC contractor, and this is a time cycle. This part of the activity of preparing a feed document, then lining up a contractor takes time. I know in the West it takes 18 months for you to come to a feed state where you can say plus or minus 10%. India, we do it very fast, but still it takes time. But once the feed document is prepared, to line up the EPC contractor is another time cycle itself. In India, this varies between 6 to 8 months. So there's a lot of time which is taken because I will make a tender document, I'll float it, I'll receive bids, I will technically evaluate them. There will be question answers. They'll be sitting across the table, closure of the technical document, then the commercial closure of the document, finally the price opening, selection of the L1 agency, and awarding of the EPC contract. This is time cycle. It takes 6 to 8 months, sometimes even 10 months actually to award an EPC contract depending upon the size of the contract and such. So this is a time cycle. Now, after this, now there is an EPC schedule, which could be 30, 32 months, 36 months, whatever it is. So that plus feed, award plus feed, overall time cycle is always a lot more than EPCM. Therefore, in India, very few projects we have built on EPC route. That is number one. Number two is on an EPC mode, the owner is transferring the risk to the EPC contractor. Because in an EPCM route, the direct order is being placed by the owner. So it is between the consultant and the owner that they share the risk of the plant. The owner takes the risk. So whether the cost goes up and down, the problem of that remains only between the owner and consultant. But a contractor who is going to commit himself on a particular contract will put a price tag to the risk which they are taking, because there are penalties if they don't do it in time. No, so somebody has to load those penalties. We found that the EPC costs, for example, if I take the same unit and implement it on EPCM versus EPC, the difference can be substantial. Can you guess a number? Can you guess a number how much typically for a unit which is, let's say, costing you X for EPCM mode of implementation, what could be the range of the same unit being implemented on EPC route? Apart from a schedule penalty, time penalty anyway will be there. But if I go for the EPC route, the costs escalate dramatically because EPC will load for all those risks. Can you guess a number? And that number is very
30
high.
to 50%.
Sorry?
30 to 50%.
Yeah. So actually, in India, our experience has been that this number varies from 22 to 40%. So the risk margin which is built out there can be as high as that, because there is a price reduction clause. Then there are so many risks which the contractor has to take. So this can be a margin, and quite a bit is a delta, which is a penalty to the owner in terms of cost. So our understanding is if you go for an EPC route, it is neither schedule friendly nor it is cost effective. Now we have worked out another way where I get the benefits of EPC. Well, EPC has some advantages. I get fast track implementation, single point responsibility. I don't have to bother too much. The owner has a much smaller, let's say, team of implementation. So there are some advantages associated with it. But time and cost is a penalty. So in India, there is a third route, and which is also a very popular route, which you call, in your parlance, you call it open book estimate. An open book estimate is very popular in India in the hydrocarbon industry also. But the way we implement it, at some other point we can discuss that. But that so far the arrangement has been only between public sector undertakings. We have not seen an open book estimate being implemented by a private company as happens in the West. But open book estimate is a good marriage between EPCM and EPC, because
Is
the
that what you
owner
call
side,
BOO here?
no. BOO is the third one. I'm coming to that. We call it
Okay.
open book estimate, OBE. I did not mention it here.
Yeah.
It is open
Okay.
book estimate. That is like an EPC contract for the owner, but implemented on EPCM route. That means the contractor who is selected will become responsible for implementation on an EPC schedule, and he will agree for all penalties of that. But transparently, all the costs committed on actual purchases, actual contracting, that transparently will be shared between the consultant and the contractor and the owner. All files will be, and the contractor will be paid a certain fee, right, for the services which they render. But the contract would be total costs incurred plus the contractor's fee, that is the lump sum cost, EPC cost. So in that process, you are able to start early. There is no need for a feed. There is no need for a feed award. So there is a lot of saving of that time. And you work on an EPC basis. That means the owner doesn't have will get the recommendation. The contractor will place all the orders, but transparently he will hand over all the commercial files to the owner. That's a regulation. Now, for that to happen, since the contractor has rendered all the services, the contractor will be actually paid a certain fee by the contractor. So this is by the owner. So this is a very popular mode in India, and billions of dollars of projects have also been done through this route, which is a cost effective. It is a win-win for everybody. The consultant or the owner gains, contractor gains. The owner gains a lot on schedule and on costs, and they do not really have to have such a big management side from their end, because they have anyway selected a contractor. But the contractor will obviously get a certain fee for the services which they are rendering or transparently handle. But the word transparently is the key. So that is why this arrangement in India is not popular between private company and a public sector undertaking. So only when the contractor is also a public sector undertaking, then only it is possible. Because if it's a public sector undertaking, it comes under government audit. So both the contractor as well as the owner's finance files are reviewed by a government. So because of that, there is absolute transparency. There cannot be any malfeasance. Anyway, so this is another way which affects the cost. Why I'm telling all this thing is because all these things affect the cost of the plant. So this is one. And third part is BOO plants. The BOO plants are those where we define just the battery limit. Only land is given and maybe some resource. I give him coal or coke, for instance, and ask him to set up a power plant. So that kind of a thing. So right from technology to implementation remains with the BOO contractor. The advantage for the owner is that this does not come in the capex. It is only comes into the opex part of it, because when I will get something from the BOO contractor, it will be at a certain price. So it will form a part of the operating cost. But if I have to reduce my capex, the BOO part of the units will not form a part of my capex estimation. So what happens is, if, in case a particular project is there where the desire is to reduce the capital expenditure on the project, there could be a portion of the plant which can be implemented on BOO basis also. So there are certain facilities which can be done on BOO. Now, so why I've told you this thing is the mode of implementation is very important to be broadly decided in the initial stages itself in the feasibility report, and the board is informed of three things. A, they are told about the configuration of the plant, the material balance, and the strategy to meet the objective function of the plant. That is one, purely technical. The other part is they are informed about the project per se, the location, logistics, product evacuation, environmental considerations, and adherence to the statute, to the local authorities and the central government, or in your parlance, federal government. So these norms as to how that is being adhered to. And third and the most vital part is what is the overall investment. So for the overall investment, it is necessary to inform the board as to what is the mode of implementation that one is considering, whether it is wholly EPCM, wholly EPC, or a combination of the two, or part EPCM, part EPC, part OBE, or part EPC, part OBE, part BOO, or a combination. Many combinations can be there. EPCM, EPC, part BOO. So all these things, in terms of an implementation strategy, are informed to the board, and the cost is connected with that. Because if I am going to give a cost number and guarantee to the board, I must tell them that it is subject to these conditions. And one of the conditions is what is the assumed mode of implementation. Because mode of implementation impacts the overall capex. It should not be that I start on EPCM and mid-course I decide when the approval is given for investment that partly I'll go for EPC. No, it will have cost implication, and that the board has to be informed. And nobody likes to go to the board again and again and again. So at this stage, but the order of magnitude at this stage, because I have not done the licensor selection, is only plus or minus 30%. You can call it order of magnitude also. So this feasibility report actually sets the direction of the project. Now here actually in India, we get a stage 1 approval on this. If the project is principally okay and the board is convinced both with the technology, objective function, location, incentives, the order of magnitude cost estimates, and the project viability directionally, then an clearance is given that you can go ahead and now do what we call a DFR, Detailed Feasibility Report. In your parlance, possibly you call it FEL2. Now, this is the time where my main objective function is that I will arrive at a plus minus 10% estimate. If I am not able to get to plus minus 10% estimate, which I have to guarantee to the board, the project investment approval does not come. Now, so I have a feasibility document, I have a clearance from the investment board, from the board to develop a DFR. First prerequisite of DFR is I must have the technologies in position. Because in the feasibility report, I shared an intent. In the detailed feasibility report, it cannot be an intent. It has to be a firm information. So the most important part is I must cut down that variable of options of licensors, and I must freeze on the technology. So in the detailed feasibility report, we start the licensor selection part. Now, this is where the main trick is coming between projects, large projects, how private companies implement, how PSUs have been implementing in India, etc., etc. Many things linked with that. Now, you see, the major players in the world, so major part, see, licensor selection is not a simple item because there are many licensors who are available for a particular technology. Now, if I have to select a licensor, I must first of all make a tender document. I must go public. I must invite bids. I must technically and commercially evaluate them. And then carry out the NPV, net present worth of all the technologies which have come, and then select the right technology from there based on the NPV. Now, this is a route which we have been following in all our PSU plants in India. So every technology which is licensed, we have followed a process of technology selection by which each and every, from the best of the technologies in the world, we select the technology, right? But when you look at the majors in the world, they know that this is a time-consuming exercise. So what they do is something what is known as managing licensor concept. This is a chance for which also I need a board approval for this. The board can give me an approval that the larger basket of the technologies I can go to one license. I don't have to do technology selection. I have some Some criterion, man, frankly speaking, is more of strategy and select a licensor. For example, Petrobras, if they put up a refinery complex somewhere, they might say, okay, I will go and give everything to UOP. Hey, in the African subcontinent, there are many plants which have been set up, and they say, I'll go to UOP and give him all the technologies. This is how Reliance was also done. Reliance said, I will not go through a conventional technology selection process because that takes a lot of time. I will give the basket of technologies to UOP. Now, UOP doesn't give you 100% of the technologies, but maybe 70%, 80%. We'll just look into the diagram and then we'll see what it is. But 70 to 80% of the technologies can come from them. For the balanced technologies, which he does not have a technology, the owner will facilitate a technology, but make an agreement with the licensor that he will perform the work of managing licensor. That means he will co-opt those technologies and integrate it in the configuration for optimization. So the best possible configuration gets optimized through the managing licensor route also. Now, all the private companies follow this thing. In the PSUs, this has happened by incidence, but it has not happened by design in India so far. And this role of individual technology selection has all been played by EIL, or the owner themselves have selected. Owner also has the know-how to select the technology. He doesn't have to go to a consultant. But if he chooses to, most of them actually come and EIL does the technology selection for them. Right? Can you just open the chart now? I will explain to you.
Yes.
Yeah, let's go up. Let's go up. So, boss, if we are looking at a complex of this nature, it has a wide variety of process units. It has a wide variety of technologies. It has a wide variety of licenses. And if there is no strategy towards that, it will take infinite amount of time to close on the licenses itself. It will become a problem. Now, two things which we have inferred out of our experience. On the refinery side, going for a managing licensor is possible, is feasible, has been happening. The most important part is it is happening. But come to petrochemicals, there is no concept of managing licensor. It is very difficult because every item over there is not very easy. And there is no single licensor which provides you even 70 to 80% of the technologies together. Each one of them is a boss in his area, but there is nobody who gives you everything. So, if one were to look at this complex, I would like to divide it into two baskets. One basket is a refinery basket. The second basket is a petrochemical basket. In the petrochemicals, there is no option but to do the conventional technology selection. We will just discuss that. But in the refinery, there is a good chance to select one of the two managing licenses. Now, in the world, what we are noticing, there are two parent groups which are working as managing licenses in the refinery segment. One is, of course, UOP, who have a large number of technologies, and the other one is Technip Access. UOP also has a tie-up with some guys. I'll tell you that right now. But these two have proven track record of having served as managing licenses. But wherever they have been chosen, it has always been on the nomination route. There is no criteria which we could come across to make a comparison between, let's say, Actions and UOP as a managing license. At least we haven't seen it so far. Maybe there is some, but at least we are not aware. We have always seen that it is by choice of the owner. That's it. Reliance decided, I will go to UOP. Now, if you ask me why they didn't go to Accents, I mean, they are the best people to explain to it. In a public sector undertaking, we can't do that. We cannot nominate a technology. I have to select. To make a criteria for managing licensor selection is not very easy. Individual licensor selection is a lot easier. It's confirmed the way you do it, that's not an issue. But managing licensor gives you many advantages. One, several baskets in the technology. I mean, a lot of basket of technologies can come from a single point agency, number one. All responsibilities with one fellow. Stream integration is very good. One doesn't have to keep going up and down, this, that, and also configuration gets optimized a lot better. These are two very subtle advantages. The process of extracting the utility based data is also much faster. So the front end design can take place at a brisk pace. So in large complexes and large players, maybe even in the Middle East they do that. We have seen, or you may have also noticed, that either it is Accents or it is UOP. Let's go to the chart again.
Yeah.
So if you can make it bigger and come to each and every block, let's come to CD videos. Let's start from there. Go up there, CD video, the first two units. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You can make it slightly bigger if you possibly can. That will be very nice. Good. So if you look at crude and vacuum distillation, these are not technology units. These are open art units. Typically, they are designed by consultants. UOP does not do CD video design. But UOP has an arrangement with PCS. So if you retain UOP as a managing licensor, it is a given that the crude and vacuum distillation will come from PCS. So PCS is extremely good in large capacity CD videos, and they have a very healthy reference list. On the contrary, Technip does the CD video design. In India, EIL does it. So when we do a refinery design in India, CD video design is always by EIL, mostly by EIL. We have a good technology, good process configuration for that. It's an open art process, but we have optimized it very well. So CD video is one block which selects for itself. Let's go up. Let's go up and CDMS block. If we look at the first block, which is naphtha hydrotreater and splitter, the naphtha splitter again is an open art process. There is no technology linked with it. But naphtha hydrotreater is a technology unit. It is a catalytic process, and both Accents and UOP provide the naphtha hydrotreater technology. Hydrotopso also does so. So when we do open art process, naphtha hydrotreater can be a competitive technology selection between more than two licensors. But generally, most of the units, it's either Accents or UOP. So we don't have a problem here. It can form a part of the managing licensor block. Let's go further down. CCR, which is designed for aromatics. Again, both Accents as well as UOP have a complete basket of technologies for the CCR block. They have the reformer, they have the isomerization unit. I mean, UOP parlance, it is Tatore, but Accent also has their own technology for it. So I can either go to UOP or I can go to Accents. So I can select between the two of them, not a problem. So both of them will be able to serve the technology for the CCR, which is designed on the aromatics route. Okay, we can come back.
To the diagram.
Yeah. So This is insofar as the MS block per se is concerned, which we are looking into this. Let's go down. Just go down a little bit, further down. Yeah. So now you see the in the middle. Just keep it up, just slightly up. VGO hydrotreater. I want to be there. So VGO hydrotreater, again, a technology which is available both with UOP as well as with accents. But in India, when we do VGO hydrotreater, Topso is another player. So Topso can also give this technology. I can't restrict myself to two in a PSU segment. I have to go for multiple players to select the technology, and there may be others also, but these are the more prominent ones uh, uh, who supply this technology. But if I decide to go for managing licensor, I have a good chance to select between UOP and accents. So VGO hydrotreater again can form that particular block. Come to DHDT. Again, no problems. UOP, accents, both of them have this technology. Topso also provides this technology, but okay. So if I have to do common licensor selection, Topso is the third agency which can provide that. There are others also, but the game is if I have to go for a managing licensor and to make a choice between Accents and UOP, I don't have a problem because both the guys have this technology. In ABB and all, so many other people are there who have the technology. But if I'm looking at UOP and Accents who have a complete basket of processes, so VGO hydrotreater, DHDT, again, no issue. Let's come back. Now come to Petro FCC. UOP does not really have a Petro FCC so far. I haven't seen their process to give me yields of 21% or so, but they have a high severity FCC process. Their yields are also good, but never as high as Accents or Technip, because Technip has the right sort of technology that is Stone and Webster earlier on. So Technip is the one who's got a fantastic technology here. But if one wants to go to UOP, UOP has as good a process. We haven't seen UOP guaranteeing 21% or so, but we have seen also them giving me a high propylene content. But if I have to look for 21%, and when I look at Petro FCC selection in India, invariably between UOP and Accents, we have found it is always UOP. The third agency, who is a very good licensor in this area, is ABB. Where ABB is licensing the NMAX process, and NMAX they are using the IOCL catalyst. So this catalyst is by the Indian company, Indian Oil Corporation. So they authorize they give a good process. KBR also has a process, but KBR is not very active in India. He may be active elsewhere, but he's not active in India. Plus, they are a very fussy licensor to work with. So in India, the choice has always been between UOP and Accents. Of late, there has been the third player, which is ABB. NMAX is a good process. In fact, it gives me higher yields of LPG, even as compared to Accents as such. Very good. So NMAX is a good process emerging. So if it is a PSU setup, I think NMAX is giving a run for the money to Stone Webster or Technip and UOP. That's why NMAX is getting popular in India. But yes, if I have to go for a managing licensor, at least I have the option. If I decide to go for UOP, I know what is going to come from them. If I decide to go to Technip, we know what we can get from them. If the intention is high petrochemicals, if you ask me personally, between UOP and Technip, apparently Stone Webster or Technip seems to have an edge because they can guarantee probably a higher FCC, higher propylene from here. So Petro FCC again can be a part of the managing licensor, not a problem. And if you look at Petro FCC and the units connected with that, you have a propylene recovery unit, you have an LPG splitter. Both these units actually are more or less open art kind of units, but they come integrally with Petro FCC. No problems. Either it is UOP or it is Accents. Both of them can be a part of the managing license. Absolutely no issue. The unit below that, which you see, is the prime G unit. Prime G, aromatic extraction. Aromatic extraction, I don't think any one of them has it. Aromatic extraction, best technology is by GTC. So anybody who wants to set up these kind of products, possibly they will go to GTC only. I mean, they all have technologies, but GTC is the best in terms of extraction technologies. We found GTC is the best. But Prime G, the best technology is by Axens. So in India also, almost all plants where we have a Petro FCC or even an FCC, Prime G units have been installed. UOP also has a process. They have a scan finer process, but somehow I mean, people don't have much confidence on that. So in a managing licensor concept, in several projects that we have worked, we found that the owner chose to go to Emery, Exxon Mobil, to give me Prime G in place of Axis, because if there is an issue and Axis doesn't want to give the technology, then there is very little option. You have to go to Emery. But I think the best process is Prime G. So when you go for a managing licensor, this particular block for UOP, for Prime G, possibly they will have to seek support from somebody. We have seen in the past plant they have gone to Emery, although they have their own technology also. It depends. And for aromatic extraction, our understanding is the best technology is by GTC. So if GTC is around, so it's not much of a problem. If it goes to, let's say, ABB, if the choice is that one would like to do a technology selection for Petro FCC and NMAX is the route to be chosen, then I think PRU and LPG splitter is not a problem. ABB will do that. Insofar as the extraction is concerned, they don't have a problem there. I am not aware what they will do with Prime G, because I don't think ABB has a technology for that. And the licenses between themselves, it's not very easy for them to get each other's technology. So the owner will have to possibly uh, independently build the units. So that's a problem. Between European accents, possibly as a managing license is not much of an issue. But if a third party comes in, then possibly there could be issue. We can go back to the chart.
Yeah.
So this is insofar as the FCC is concerned. Now we can go back and come down a little bit. And I have not really touched at the olefin plant. We'll just look at that. But there's a part of petrochemicals. So come down and let's look at the delayed coker. Now, delayed coker, actually, none of them have the technologies, whether it is Actions or UOP. So technology selection will have to be done. But in the past, we have noticed that UOP has some loose agreement with ABB on this. So UOP possibly can get you ABB also, but we have found that people tend to make a choice between ABB and Foster Wheeler on their own. Like, say, for example, when Reliance went for managing licensor route, they gave all their technologies to UOP, but for delayed coker, they chose Foster Wheeler. When we have done several technology licensor selections in India, we have always ended up with ABB. We found that ABB on NPV outbeats Foster Wheeler, and for reason for that is that Foster Wheeler design has a lot of proprietary items. I mean, proprietary furnace, proprietary. I told you we don't like the word proprietary in India.
So I think Sanjay, Foster Wheeler is now wood. It's a
Yeah,
wood.
wood. That's right.
And ABB, it's Lummus, and it's actually the JV, Chevron Lummus Global. Yeah.
That's right, Lummus Global. ABB
Yeah,
Lummus
Chevron
Global.
Lummus Global. Yeah.
Chevron also has an arrangement with ABB only, but nobody else apparently seems to have a coker technology. It is only these two guys.
Yeah.
So in India, I think most of the units are by ABB. There are a few units, including Reliance, which is done by Foster Wheeler. Now wood, of course. So that is that. We can come back to the chart.
Yeah.
Now, the the pink colored boxes I'll discuss a bit later. So if you look at the delayed coker, no, delayed coker, by the side of it, you see two units. You will see ethane purification. That's an open art process. Anybody can do it. So it's not a problem. ABB or Foster Wheeler, anyone can do it. If it's an LPG treatment, our experience with this is mostly Merichem. So we've seen only a Merichem unit being installed out here, because this coker LPG is a very tricky kind of an affair. Although this technology is available with some companies in India, but mostly in the units which have been implemented, we've seen Merichem as one of the prospective technology. So Merichem has been around. So
They have a lot.
sorry, sir.
They have a
Yeah,
lot
that's
of
right.
techno.
Yeah, only Merichem, all over Merichem. So they are the best guys. Right. And it's a very simple but complex technology. They've got a nice vessel and all that. So we can go back. So, boss, if you look into the refinery, you can just scroll up from here. You'll see CDU, VDU, DSDT, VGO hydrotreater, delayed coker, FCC, olefin complex we just discussed. Then go up further, and the aromatic complex. And so I can easily go for a managing licensor and basket all these technologies. So if there is a if there see as a public sector I can't do it, but if it is a private company who's setting up the project, then they can make a choice between UOP and accents, and all these technologies can be basketed. This helps me in configuration optimization much better, much faster, because I don't have to do multiple licensor selections, so to say. The caution is in India, we don't do this thing. In India, public sector undertakings, we do individual selection only, and then select the best out based on the NPV. So that is that. Now, come to the one distinct inference which we are discussing and drawing from here is that if the option is available, it is a good idea to basket all these technologies and go to one agency. And it can be a choice between UOP and Accent. And we found this strategy is very good, because if you do that, there is a lot of standardization which can be achieved in multiple units. Packages become more streamlined. Stream integration is much better, and only one or two small units like delayed coker and maybe the aromatic extraction, they are the only two units which need to be outsourced for the managing licensor. At best, UOP may have to outsource prime G also. That's it. So I think the refinery block is fairly in control. But the question comes of the olefin plant. Now, olefin plant puts you in some trouble. The olefin complex, actually, there are only 4 licensors in the world. Now, UOP doesn't have a technology, incidentally. So it's either Technip, which was originally Stone Webster. Technip also has their own technology, but Stone Webster is a premier technology there. Then you got ABB Lummus, who are premier in the liquid crackers. You got Linde, and you have KBR, millisecond cracker. These 4 are the prominent 4 olefin licensors. And it is never an easy choice to select an olefin plant on nomination basis. One would actually prefer to do what you call a technology selection for it. But directionally, if you see, Petro FCC, Technip has an edge. They have a good technology, and if you have a look at let's say even your olefin plant, they have a technology, but ABB is a lot more popular when it comes to liquid crackers. I think they have a much higher market share also for that. So I think it looks like that for the olefin complex, there is little alternative but to do technology selection. It possibly cannot be a part of a managing licensor, unless of course the owner has certain views about it. Both the technologies are very good. Stone Webster and Lummus, now Technip, of course. KBR is not popular in India. We haven't seen anybody setting up a KBR cracker in India. Linde, we have one plant in India, but Linde, again, I don't know whether they do common licensing. We've seen them more on the EPC side. Plus, they will struggle to become a licensor in India because their technology is with a lot of proprietary equipment, and that is a little bit of issue in terms of technology selection. But most between Technip and Lummus, there is no issue. They freely license the technology, and this is a very critical process insofar as the objective function is concerned. So I think there can be a technology selection out here. And when I say olefin complex, there are certain units connected with that. You come back to the,
Yeah.
it's a big complex actually. Cracker is a huge complex. So if you look at the olefin plant, you see PGH, the C4 hydrogenation. So there are integral blocks to the olefin complex only. So Technip already has a technology of their own, and not an issue. And if one were to go for KCOT, as we were discussing yesterday, if KCOT is to be utilized as a technology, then we have no option. We have to go only to KBR. Because KBR is the only licensor for that. So that technology will have to be outsourced by the owner themselves because they will not part with their technology with the licensors. But certainly they can give it to the owners. And so their technology process may be slightly different. So insofar as the petrochemical mother block is concerned, I think to my mind, there is no way you will have to do technology selection. Move further down toward the right. Yeah, and you can go right up. You can go up. Okay, one last block could be alkyl. Okay, maybe it is the same type of block. We can go up, other way, other direction. Yeah, that's right. Good. So all the petrochemical downstream blocks, they have to be independent. For instance, PTA. Earlier on, it was DuPont. I don't know what is the new name now. You can check up in your folder for PTA. What are the current licenses?
Let's see. I'm not sure I have so much. PTA. How is it? It's a oxidation process, right?
Pure terephthalic acid.
Yeah. Okay, I have to switch. No. Okay, go on. I am searching for it.
You don't have it?
I am searching. I don't remember how I named the technology.
Okay, fair enough. No problem. So, okay. So PTA, earlier on, in India, we set up several plants from DuPont. I don't know who is the licensor. Maybe Alicent, possibly it could be Alicent. I think DuPont has been taken over by Alicent, it seems. Can you just check Alicent?
Yeah.
Alicent is licensing the technology for PTA, I think. You want to check it that way?
Alicent. I have not yet modeled that technology.
You got Alicent here, no?
Yeah, I have Alicent, but not the PTA process.
Okay. Fair enough. Oh, okay, you have licenses for that. Then, of course, when you come to the polymers, LLDP, HDP, I mean, in India, one good licensor, of course, for this is Univation. Univation has supplied multiple units here. All of them are performing well. Nice unit, good licensor. That's our experience. HDP in India, it has come from INEOS. We have a process from Chevron Phillips, and we also have Mitsui. Also, so these three licensors, but I understand of late that possibly Innovation is also now licensing this technology. Whether it is Innovation or Grace, maybe either of them, but they are licensing this. VCM PVC, to my mind, one of the good processes by INEOS, but you can check up in your folder what the other licenses. Earlier on, it
For
used to be rich. VCM PVC.
for
VCM.
VCM, yes. VCM, VCM. Okay, EDC cracking into VCM. Okay, have it here. Oh, we have only one generic technology at this stage.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So VCM INEOS is a good licensor there.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
So this is where we need the support from the community of users of the platform to help us add the missing technologies and improve the description of those technologies we have in the
Yeah,
platform.
I understand.
But we have just a very succinct description. Yeah.
Well, you don't have an arrangement with the licensors who on their own help your platform or inform you?
Not yet. We have tried,
Okay.
but they are not very responsive. I
Yeah,
think
I
we have to
understand.
bring them to support
No,
the
it's very
effort.
difficult to get information. Yeah, that's right. Anyway,
Yeah.
so let's come back.
Yeah.
Then when you go down, you see MEG. MEG in India, mostly it's been between scientific design and Shell.
Yeah.
Then
That we have.
MEG, you can check. Ethylene oxide, glycol.
Yeah. Dow Meteor.
Meteor process. Dow.
Scientific design,
Dow is
Shell
a good
Master,
process.
Shell
Yes.
Omega. Yeah, these are the main
Dow.
licenses.
Dow,
Yeah.
we've done license selection for this Meteor. So Dow is there, scientific design, Shell. Good.
Yeah.
So this is what we are also familiar with. Then come further down, possibly you
On the
might have
chart. Yeah.
we go back to the chart. Then polypropylene. Polypropylene, you got plenty of licenses. So
Yes.
polypropylene, you got Grace, you got Basel, INEOS.
We have many actually, different types, different categories. Yeah.
Correct. So many guys are there.
Yeah, many.
But for high capacity, INEOS, you're seeing Lundell Basel is there. Mitsui, Sinopec, China's, of course, we don't take anything. CP You don't have Grace here? Grace.
Yes, of course, it's gas phase.
Gas based, but I did not see the name of the license of Grace.
These are the gas phase processes.
Huh?
These are the gas phase. Before I was showing
gas based Grace.
this is
okay.
bulk slurry polymerization.
Slurry is there.
Yeah, and now we have a gas phase.
Gas based,
Grace
you
is
got
there,
INEOS.
PP.
Yes. Grace, INEOS, and the others are not.
JPP.
Yeah, we are familiar with
JPP.
Lummus. So these three are
Lummus, of
supplied
course,
in
over
India:
there.
Lummus, Grace, and INEOS.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the other generic PP and Sumitomo.
Generic
We
is
not
just,
sourced in India.
Yeah.
So there are plenty of technologies available, but if the capacity is large, we have found Grace is a good technology. Okay.
Yeah.
Then we can go down and see. Go back to the chart. Then acrylates. Acrylates, I don't know, it's a guarded technology. You can see if you have acrylic acid. Can you just check?
We may have something, but we are really moving into the specialty
Acrylic acid.
processes. Acrylic, yeah.
These are all guarded technologies. I mean, people don't license it easily.
No, I don't. I don't have
You don't have,
agreement with
no?
it. No, I don't think.
These are,
Not yet. Not
we have
yet.
one or two, uh, we have one or two
Yeah.
plants in India.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is not very easy to get this technology.
Yeah.
Anyway, then POPG, only agency we are familiar with is Lyondell Basel.
Propylene oxide, polypropylene, propylene oxide. You mean it's
Yes, that's right.
propylene
Propylene
glycol? Yeah. Yeah.
oxide,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
propylene
Yeah.
glycol.
We have something there. Yeah. So, technologies, propylene oxide. So
Yeah, that's
BSF,
it.
this was
Lyondell,
only the PO, and then you have the
BSF, he doesn't
PJ.
license.
These are
Sorry?
the main licensors. Sorry,
Yeah, that's right.
Hmm.
Basel is there. But
Basel
these fellows
is
don't
there.
license. The problem with petrochemicals is these guys very difficult to get these fellows to quote. I don't know. Our experience is very different about them. They don't quote in India.
Yeah,
They don't offer technologies. They always come with the condition that they will either not part with the technology or come and make investment. They want to own the plant.
yeah.
Anyway, and then of course alkylation. You've got Alicent is a good agency. Even
Yeah.
UOP has a good process. Alkylation, UOP process is also okay.
It's alkylation. Alkylation of aromatic compounds, you mean? Or
Huh?
oh no. It's the to make the alkylates for the fuel, the gasoline component, right?
Hmm.
Right? It's this one.
Alicent,
Yeah,
Lummus, all these fellows have this.
yeah. Here.
Hmm. What about phenol?
And you have
Phenol? Can you check one?
phenol.
Phenol is, I think, Badger is there. Badger, KBR, UOP.
Yeah, yeah,
Badger is, I think, a good process.
yeah. So phenol, Badger BPA. Yeah.
Badger and
And you have
KBR.
KBR phenol acetone. This is the one we have captured for the time being.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this is this. Then and then of course one can look at slurry hydrocracking, part of refinery, but a new emerging technology. 4 licensors are there: ABB, Lummus, UOP, Actions, and
Slurry hydrocracking. Yeah,
yeah.
that's hydrocracking.
Can you check slurry
Sorry.
hydrocracking? What have you put?
Yep.
Slurry hydrocracking, UOP, Actions, KBR, and Lummus.
So hydrocracking, not all. So there are different hydrocracking technologies. Slurry
But slurry hydrocracking is different.
is one of them. So what we have is we have a technology category which is hydrocracking, and then we have the
Right.
commercial technologies. Yeah, it includes.
Okay, but slurry
not
hydrocracking,
only
there are only
slurry,
4
yeah.
licenses.
Okay, tell me.
So,
So we have UOP unicracking maybe.
yes,
Uh,
UOP, Chevron. all
LC
these
Slurry
others.
from Chevron Lummus.
Yes.
It must be accents. Which one exactly? I'm not sure if it's
Abbreviated by
HIVAL or HOL.
IVAL, HOL, yes, all of them are there.
KBR,
KBR.
VCC maybe. Yeah,
Weber
these are the
cracking.
licensors. Sorry?
Weber cracking, that is KBR. Slurry hydrocracking is VCC.
Yeah.
This one, yeah, that's right.
Any
then-
as well. Any as a
And
hydrocracking
UOP
technology.
Uniflex, that is also that slurry hydrocracker.
Okay.
Okay. So, in a nutshell, what I was trying to tell is on the refinery side, there is a possibility of basketing some technologies But on the petrochemical side, there is very little option. One will have to resort to technology selection as such, because there is
Yeah.
no licensor who would be willing to basket. And these licensors are also quite worried about their technology, so they come with some red shirting clause and those kind of requirements. So I think it becomes more or less pertinent that once you get into petrochemicals, the mode of implementation has to be different. One has to go through the technology selection process. Now, this impacts the project schedule and so many other things. And if you come to the left
Yeah.
hand side, you
Yeah.
will see a BOO block there. You can
The
see at the
bottom.
bottom you've got SMR.
Yeah.
See, then okay, uh, your CBFC and combined cycle power, they are all open art, so there's not much of a problem. Anybody can do it. Then tail gas treatment, that's the Licensor process, or I do not know, maybe there are other licenses, but we are only familiar with one. And then CO2 recovery, again open art, but all ethanol, green ammonia, these are all emerging processes along with green hydrogen. Now, these, when I have to go for BOO process, I don't have to worry about technology,
Yeah.
because technology is intrinsic to the plant. So anybody who's putting in money, they will bring their own technology and things like that. So the owner has to only take a decision whether they want to go for a BOO process or not. But if they can go for BOO, which is very popular, which is getting popular, of course, gradually. So that way, I think we can save a little bit on cost. So this is the way that we put it together. So for the DREAM project, also what I will do is I will also assemble all these things, put the technologies at one place, and then I think what the one direct inference is that for the refinery side, we can basket the technologies to a large extent, but on the petrochemical side, it is very difficult. So we will have to do technology selection unit wise, and then somebody will have to integrate it. So when we do the basic engineering or the front end part of licensor selection, one important part is the consultant has to be in position while we are doing this thing. So even if the owner is directly doing the technology selection, the consultant must be in position so that correspondingly can obtain utilities and offsites data and try and figure out the design of the utilities, the offsites, the power plant, CBFC, and so many other things. So all these things can be done by the consultant to size them. So because we have to get to the cost, no. So that part of the work can be done. In parallel, of course, the technology selection can be done for the petrochemical side, and so there will be phasing. The refineries could be a position where you will be slightly advanced in terms of implementation, and petrochemical block will come a bit later because there will be a phase difference. If you are going for a managing licensor route, the managing licensor can come a bit early, start his process design, whereas for the downstream units, it may be difficult. But insofar as the DFR is concerned, we will have to complete the licensor selection to a large extent, be it refineries or petrochemicals, so that we have elemental information. Now, when we have to get plus or minus 10% cost estimate, each unit we do preliminary engineering. So we have some specific formats in the licensor selection process where we seek information from the licensor about the equipment data, sizes, dimensions, capacities, some technical parameters based on the technology which he is offering. And on that particular documentation, we do the basic engineering and convert it into an entity which can be costed. So, for example, we will do mechanical thermal design of all heat exchangers, air cooler designs. We will do the front end mechanical design of an equipment column, vessel, etc., so that we are able to assess the hardware. So for each unit, we do that and cost it out. So we have a good hang of what are the equipment, what is the kind of quantum of work which is involved. and that is how we cost it. Now, since each unit is costed elementally this way, our cost estimates are very accurate, because if I have done the plant and machinery cost to a reasonable level of accuracy, the bulk materials can be factored with a certain cost. So we know how to reach to the bottom line. Each unit can come as a bottom line cost from there. So this is one part. This is how we will arrive at all the costs. So the cost part for all the units can be assembled that way. Project cost, as I said, infrastructure cost is one simple site element. Utilities and offsite facilities, based on the input which is coming from the licensors, are all preliminarily assessed by the consultant. And we can do the sizing of, let's say, raw water system, cooling water system, instrument, plant air, nitrogen, all these systems, and work out the costs for those. So that can be the other setup. This is how we put together the cost. Now, uh, I have a good cost number. I know about the project details now. So there is a good recommendation which and we also know which units I can go for a managing licensor, which units I will do elementally, which I might have already done as part of the DFR. So my cost accuracy level is very good. Only thing which I have to do at this stage is the implementation mechanism, which is very important. To the bottom line, I will add some factors. If it is OB, I will not take it in cost. If it is EPC, I will add some factor. If it is EPCM, I know what the cost it is. And then there can be a strategic document, which we call as the project implementation plan, which is developed at this stage, which forms a part of my detailed feasibility report. So the board can also be apprised as to how I am going to implement the project, control it, what are the basic considerations, how I will keep a hang on the cost schedule, etc., etc. These things are also put together in the project. Now, one very last important part, when we do the licensor selection, uh, if we have taken a prima facie decision to go to a particular licensor, the licensor selection process is also based on an NIT. So we make a tender document, invite the bids, and then select a certain licensor to perform to give me the basic data, which can be utilized for caustic and apparent front-end engineering. So once I have selected the licensor, I have arrived at the cost estimate, put together a DFR, confirmed plus minus 10% cost estimate. I go to the board to seek my investment approval. Typically, we take about 6 to 7 months. Sometimes it could be 8 months for a project of this size. The one which I mentioned could be 9 months also, wherein we would be at the level of plus or minus 10% cost estimate. This is how we will go obtain the investment approval, and now we will go ahead with the implementation. Now, I think I will just spell out for 5 minutes the contents of the NIT, which is very important as to how we do the basic engineering from the licensors. Now, what happens is, one major experience of ours is that if you select a typical process package from a licensor, which in our parlance we call a Schedule A process package, typically what is offered by UOP and all. So that document is not basic engineered, in the sense that it does not have many details which have to be worked out by the consultant or an engineering company, and the documentation or the process package has to be updated before I can take it forward for detailed engineering. This takes time. So what we have been trying to do in the recent cases is that there are 4 or 5 things which we insist should be performed by the licensors. Actually, licensors don't do this work. Licensors actually do only technology work. They do not like to do basic engineering work. Basic engineering, often they leave it to the consultant. But our experience is this interface is very troublesome between the licensor and consultant. So if these 4 or 5 activities which I am going to tell now are also performed by the licensor, So whether the responsibility remains with the licensor, maybe he can subcontract it to a consultant if he wishes to. One part is that all furnaces which are there in the refinery or the petrol company, they should be engineered. Engineered means thermal design should be completed, API data sheet should be prepared, pass control configuration, etc., should be formed up and reflected in the PNIDs. This is very important because if you don't do that, your PNIDs are incomplete, implementation becomes very difficult. So this is one element. Second part is all hardware in terms of heat exchangers and air coolers. They should be sized. Sized means they should be thermally engineered. If they are not thermally engineered, then number of shells etc. are not known. They come as a part of detailing later on. So it's a lot of interface work. PNID has to be changed, revisited. No, nothing. So we keep it in the scope of the licensor and let him do the thermal design and air cooler designs and all the bundle configuration and exchanger arrangements. They have to reflect in the and show in the PNIDs. My PNID is getting more and more complete. So this is the second part. And the third part is all control valves and safety valves, which are there in the plant, whatever is a part of the technology, they should all be sized. Once the basic engine, once the process is completed, process design is completed, you have the data. Whether he does it or the consultant does it, this part of the exercise should get completed. So we do all these things and incorporate the findings of all these three entities into the plant per se, into the basic engineering package per se. So this is this. The last point which I want to mention is most of the projects fail because the takeoff between the licensor and the consultant is not of good quality. And one is for these 3-4 reasons which I told you, which needs to be completed so that the PNID get completion. And the third part is that there should not be re-option to re-perform the hydraulics. Now, what happens is the consultant begins to make the equipment layout subsequent to receipt of the basic engineering package from the licensor. Now, once you do the layout, you have to re-perform the hydraulics. In the process, a lot of line sizes get changed, whatever the licensors are offered. Now, this is tragic. If you keep doing that, then we are losing precious time. What we have done is that when we do the basic engineering, within 3 months, that means at the time when the process flow diagram is complete, heat and material balances are done, the dimensioned equipment layout must be frozen. The consultant should make it, licensor should also agree and stamp it. So that all further hydraulics work on the plant by the licensor is carried out on the agreed plot plan. Now, I'm not talking out of where, this is where we have done all our projects. And what we have noticed is if I am able to control these 3, 4, 5 things at this stage, 99% of the time I will get a very good process package from the licensor, and my detailed engineering subsequent to that will be a lot more streamlined.
Yeah.
Now, the other important part is, as I mentioned, we don't do feed work in India. We do plus minus cost estimate. So if my PNIDs are of a good quality, and if I can get some advance information on this from the licensor at an early stage, I can make some MTOs also to assess the quantum of work and improve the quality of our estimate. So in our past experience, there have been very useful interaction with the licensor during the DFR stage, and we have obtained a lot of advanced information in terms of sizing and many other things. So the estimation element improves dramatically, which helps us in improving our cost estimates significantly to that extent. So what I thought was that today, what we discussed was that in the basket of in the project which we are looking at, there are only certain technology which we can basket. Quite a number of them have to go for technology selection. Once all the technologies are available, the configuration will have to be revisited for completely finalizing the material balances, finalizing the capacities of various units. and revisiting the other details which are required. In the process of licensor selection and process of licensor selection, yes, we will go through the NPV route, but while doing so, there are a lot of vital information which is available with us because we do a lot of basic engineering part of it, which helps us in improving our estimates dramatically. So in our DFRs, we are able to get a plus minus 10% level of estimate without doing feed. Now, this is something which is probably a little bit different from what is done elsewhere. We have not seen any other company doing it. We do only this in India, and we have so far been able to do it successfully in several projects. So most of our even mega projects are done this way. So in the DFR document, we are able to streamline many things. So I thought this was the discussion. If you have some questions, we can address those.
Yeah, so I think I wanted to show something is this diagram. This is how we are going to translate the information you provided about the units and the configuration of the refinery. This is an over complex where we have generated a very precise model with all the units presented as boxes and all the product streams moving to and from these boxes down to the market. Actually, let me just show it without here. Okay, good. So down to the market, and I can of course increase the size. So each box, for example, here it's a naphtha reformer. I can look at the technology, and this is the technology of the reformer, and we can also go down one level because we have the technology unit, the equipment inside the technology itself, and we can in the end, if we have the information, produce a process flow diagram for the unit. With all its pieces of equipment. And if you look at the product flows that go through the reformer, so where was here, I can look at the flows. And this is the asset mass balance. So we determine all the streams, what goes into the unit, what gets out of the unit, and we look at the mass balance for the whole site. And then, as you can observe here, we are very precise with that one because we have a precision of less than 2,000 tons. Means from the feedstock down to the products that go to the market, taking into consideration also the side stream, the off streams, and so on, the waste streams. Right. We account for everything that moves across the complete platform. So that's how we are going to translate your information and support this DREAM project design.
Very good, very good, very good. So once you make it, then I think it will be very good and handy for people to refer to it, It's quite interesting actually. And then we'll see how to seed it across. I mean, together we can see how to seed it. Well, I'm sure a lot of people would be interested because these discussions can be very useful for people.
Yeah. So... Go on over.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sanjay. I would like to go back to the beginning of your presentation, where you described how a project is being started and who to talk to. I wondered, India is a federal state, a federal country. You have the states and you have New Delhi. And when you start such a project, a refinery, a major petrochemical complex, how much is in the hands of the state government and how much is involvement of the central government in Delhi? Is it easy to navigate this? Probably not, but do people get an understanding of the structure, who to talk to, who has authority to make the right decisions in such a very complex process, which is nowhere easy, but in a federal country, it's particularly challenging.
Yeah. So the most important part is, first of all, I must have a promoter for a project. Now, typically in India, what happens is the promoter is either going to be a public sector company or it is going to be a private sector company. For instance, if it is a public sector company, I have three major players who put up these kind of complexes. It is either IOCL, BPCL, or HPCL, right? There would be ONGC and OIL. Actually, they do more of exploration work. They are sometimes doing some petrochemical plants, but essentially, when it comes to refineries, it is essentially these three players. And there are three more players who do, let's say two more players who do private sector refining work, which is one is Reliance, another one is Naira, and third one you can say is some kind of a JV kind of a setup that is between, that we are calling it HMEL, that is between Mittal Group or Mittal Group and HPCL. Now, these are the major players who will actually prompt the project. So what they do is they actually hire a consultant, and the consultant most typically is EIL, who will carry out the work for them. Because some basic work is required even when you have to approach a state government. So let's say, for example, IOCL wants to set up this DREAM project. Let us say, for example. So once the conceptual work is done, they might have some prima facie idea as to where exactly they would like to put. So all these companies they have a rich information with respect to market data. Where are the major consuming centers and what are the broad logistics which will offer to the plant? That actually takes them to a state. And the states in India, they, as it is, declare some incentives. So they have some open policy that if you set up a project, I'm going to give you land, this thing, I'm going to this kind of a taxation free. Some incentive policy is there, which is a declared policy by the state government. Every state government will welcome a project because some investment is coming into their state. So they will encourage and give you some incentive because their interest is that once this project comes up, there is local employment which is generated, local economic activity which happens, and then there is a cascading effect to it. That is one part. So the state governments are more or less encouraging you to do that. When I say state government, it has a system. You have a chief minister who is the head of the state, and he has a council of ministers who is supported by a bureaucracy. So most of these decisions actually start at the bureaucracy level where you seed a particular idea. Because somebody has to take it to the politicians, and the power is actually there. So once this is there, then finally it will go to the executive. Now, if the executive understands the merit of it in terms of long-term, so they will grant approval. So they have their own systems of approving the plant. They will sit together with the promoter. They will have an agreement on these things, and there will be give and take. So the most important give and take is land. Where exactly you want to put the plot, and so many things associated with that. The general administration part. So law and order will be assured by the state. They will care of the basic logistics. They might try to build some roads for you. They might give you some power and water connectivity because they are interested in having this project. Somebody wants to put maybe some $20 billion in your state. Why not? Anybody would be interested in that.
Of course.
So the state government would increase, and the promoter and the state agreement will agree to a certain policy with respect to fiscal incentives which will be provided to the promoter, and the promoter will also have some obligations towards the state that they will do A, B, C, D, be in production by this time. Once they run after a certain period of time, depending on the policy, they will agree to various stipulations in the state, blah, 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 whatever is the law of the land, so to say. So they are interested. Uh, in general, when it comes to refinery, and if any of these companies is promoting, the government, the federal government, the central government has only a broad policy. See, the federal government is very important because the state government, in a way, will be interacting with them. But what we have noticed is the federal government these days does not interfere too much with the state, because
Okay.
these oil companies which I mentioned, all of them are very large groups who have been given a lot of freedom of operation. They have the freedom to decide on their projects, to invest on their project. But if it is a very large project, say for example this kind of a dream project which we are mentioning, then once they have decided prima facie with the state, they will put up a note to the cabinet committee of the federal government, because the federal government should also approve it. No? Because ultimately it is a political affair. You are putting up a big refinery, there will be so much of products. Government has to see whether import, export, how it is. Then they have to see how I'm going to look at international logistics, how I have to arrangement for export, what is the kind of policy I should have. So the federal government has a role from that point of view. So there will be there, but I would not use the word interference. Actually, they would like to facilitate these things. As long as you are serving the requirement of the nation and also building infrastructure, the government actually encourages these things. So the state government has a pivotal role in finalizing the nuances of the project, but the federal government will give you the final approval, because they will give you the licensing, they will give you the permission, they will give you, all international incentives. Something has to be brought at a lesser duty. That it cannot be done by state government. That will be done by because in many projects, what the federal government does is they waive off taxes, import duty and things like that, because they want to encourage a particular project. So they was like for Reliance, when they set up this particular project, they had made the customs duty as negligible almost. So they wanted to give them incentive that if they have to procure equipment, then be it so, because the country is interested in having a large project. So there are government interfaces, there are government controls, and this is a facility which is, see, the important part is all three agencies, the promoter, the state government, and the federal government, actually are interested in the project. And because they are interested, I think they work as facilitators. They are not obstructors out there. Because why would
Yeah.
they obstruct a project? They are not willing to obstruct. See, as long as the project is fitting into the overall macro dimensions of the country's policy, then I think there is no problem. Whether it is a public sector or a private sector, encouraging a project is left more to the board. The boards are very empowered. The boards of these promoters also have government representatives. When we say government, the federal government representatives are there in this board. So once the board approves it, directly or indirectly, you have the government blessing on that, because the government becomes a party, So
Exactly.
they are in the decision making process. They have seen the proposal from the beginning. They have seen the estimates. They have seen the viability. They have looked into the strategy of project evacuation. They have looked into the implication of what is going to come by way of raw materials from outside. So everything which is there. Plus, they have also looked into what clearances they have to give. In India, if I set up a refinery or a petrochemical complex, I think there are 80 plus kind of clearances which are required. So, which are all state and federal. So, I have to go to the airport authorities to get some clearance. I have to go to coastal authorities to get some marine clearance. Well, so many things are there. So, that is a part of normal implementation. But all those things we will have interfaces. That's why I mentioned that once I select a site, the process of intervention starts. But in our experience, the government has been more of a facilitator in that. I haven't seen them obstructing anything. Because I think both the governments are actually interested in the project. So the onus is on the promoter's board only to put it. So if you are saying that somebody wants to interact, then ideally speaking, they must interact with the promoters. It is a promoter's responsibility to interact with the federal and the state government. So with the federal government, they don't have a problem because federal government representatives are in their board. They're government appointees. So one or two government appointees are there. So anyway, the federal government is with them on a decision-making process. With the state government is a strategy because without that, it cannot go for a board approval. So I need the state government's approval on the land, what is it they are offering, what incentive they are giving. Because before it goes to the board, all these things should be settled by way of documentation, all that. So the promoter's board does a lot of work. So let's say, for example, somebody wants to put FDI, somebody wants to promote these. It doesn't happen in India, but yes, people can. Let's say Saudi Aramco wants to come and set up a project with IOCL. So the process would be that Saudi Aramco and IOCL, first of all, they will form a company because they will the arrangement has to be discussed. If the arrangement is only a contracting arrangement that from Saudi Aramco I'm going to purchase crude and I'm going to process it, then there is no role. But if let's say Saudi Aramco comes and says that $20 billion, okay, 50, $10 billion, now he is in the decision making process. For that to happen, first thing which will happen is there will be a JV company to be formed. I have to make a subsidiary company. So company formation will take place between IOCL and Saudi Aramco. It will be given a name. It will have a board. It will have a structure. It will have a corporate. It will have a management. And that company will be now entrusted with the task of implementing this project. And you will have directors from either side. You will have directors from, let's say, Saudi Aramco as well as from IOCL, for instance. And then they will form a certain mechanism, procedures, etc., just like any other organization. Unfortunately, in India, what happens is because public sector undertakings in India come under government audit. So all the government's auditing processes have to be strictly adhered to. So that is one mechanism on which there is no compromise. It is not open for discussion. It is just to be done. It is mandate. It is the law of the land. Now, if a private sector company like Saudi Aramco comes and makes an investment, they want their procedures to be followed. Operation that can be agreed to depending on the board formation. But on a strategy which affects the national overtones in terms of how you will evacuate the project, what will be the ownership level, how so those things become an issue which have to be cleared by the government because government may not easily agree on certain conditions which the others are imposing. No, so there has to be an agreement on it. So in one project, Saudi Aramco, and three companies of India, IOCL, BPCL, HPCL, all got together. So the share was 50% by Indian companies and 50% by Saudi Aramco and ADNOC. A new JV was formed with directors and all that to set up the world's biggest refinery and petrochemical complex. Right? We used to call it the West Coast Refinery. It never took off. That's another issue. Right? So when this project came up, there were lots of discussion which happened. Huh? But because those people had a share in this, beyond a certain point, to my mind, it became a little bit of an issue. Because anybody who puts in money will try to influence many things. So they had an opinion on the mode of implementation. They have an opinion on how the products will be evacuated. They have an opinion as to where and how much crude you should source from them. Then they have an opinion of which items or which process units have to be implemented in a certain manner. Right? You have to go for BOO, you have to do, I mean, so many conditions are there. Those things become very difficult in a public sector. Therefore, in our experience, we have not seen a foreign company coming and making a JV with a public sector undertaking. They can work with the private
Oh, is
companies.
that right? Okay.
So people are coming and working with Adani Group, say for instance, or with Reliance Group. They haven't done it, but they can do it. Because there the systems will be flexible, the procedures will be all internal. So arrangements and strategy can be looked into, and the government can be kept informed. Government doesn't get involved in day-to-day decision-making process. But if it is a government project or a government entity, then certainly government will interfere because government will have a word to say on that, no, whether they agree or disagree. That is
But
the
that
point.
is certainly interesting. You're saying there has not been a joint venture with a government.
There have been many attempts for that, but on a large
Yes,
scale, it
yes.
has not happened. So Purnendu Group came, say for example, Purnendu came, they set up their own project. Reliance has set up their own project. Naira, which was previously SR, they set up their own project. So it was
Yeah,
only
yeah.
private affair. And there are many refineries which are exclusively by public sector. There has not been a case where a foreign major has come and jointly joined hands with this. This is now happening. It is happening now in semiconductors. It is happening in renewable
Okay.
energy. It is happening. In the newer areas. It is happening. But
That's
I
it.
have not.
That is interesting. Certainly, it's a strategic area for the government to make sure the investment is coming in this. I'm sure
Yeah,
we can follow this up. I would certainly like to map out this process also clear with your help, that we map it out, the external parties, what are involved in this. You've given us a very good insight today on this
correct.
process, and then leading to the technology side. But each of them, well, they open up so many questions. It's fascinating.
Yeah,
It's
hundreds
really
of questions.
interesting and fascinating, and we're really looking forward to map this out further. I think for today we've covered really a very focused area of it, but it's a huge part, and we're looking forward again to go into the next stage. Nicolas has shown this already, how we will take the information and replicate that in the system, so we can always go back and say, this is our view now, and this is how we envisage it, and then we can see if that's the best solution we can come up with, and invite people for their opinions. And as Nicolas said, if anyone wants to contribute to a technology, bring in a new technology in our system and improve the descriptions, everybody's welcome to support us in that process. Thank you very much.
So the way to build a project in India could be that your group should actually be interacting with some big promoter like Ferrostol and all, somebody with deep pockets. Now you can do all the configuration, detailing, help them line up the licensor, blah blah blah, develop a detailed feasibility report, have a project viability established, and then come and approach government of India, boss, I'm going to invest so much of money. You give me land, you give me A, B, C, D, blah, blah, blah. And that's it. I'm going to do the project for you. Just see what China does. Nah. China will go anywhere and they will say, I will set up a port for you. I will set up the refinery for you. I will do everything on that. Deep
And
pockets.
I always remember that people said, well, where do we invest working in the Middle East? People always said, where do we invest, India or China? And process-wise, people tended to look at China, but when then at the risks and proprietary intellectual properties to maintain that the challenges seem to be higher in China. I'm just saying, higher in China compared to India. So, well, maybe we do the next sessions. We'll find someone from China who helps us to give us the same insight for China. But that is a project. That's a project for tomorrow. It's really interesting to get this holistic picture of an investment in India, and we're touching so many subjects. It will be fantastic to continue.
Yeah. That's right.
I
can understand, and I will give a peaceful thought to it, that if a promoter wants to come and invest in India in the hydrocarbon sector, how they should do. So I will take an example of a coal to chemicals project. See, now I think the government is investing something like what, maybe $100 billion plus in coal to chemical projects. And that's an area to my mind when FDI can come. So maybe in the next session, we can discuss, I can discuss a configuration of coal to chemicals, and then we can discuss a strategy. If somebody has to come from outside and invest, how he should do, what he should do, right? Which should be mutual win-win. See, everybody should gain. Otherwise, there is no point.
Absolutely.
If only one person gains, then there is no issue. Everybody has to gain.
Absolutely.
So
And
thank you,
Thank you. Thank you.
This particular, just one
Sanjay.
second.
I think
Sanjay.
Today's session would be very useful for
We have to
implementation.
we have to wrap up.
we-
here.
I think we are beating our record for the duration of such a program.
Yes.
Okay.
So we
I know we'll break all your records.
exactly, we are breaking records every day. Thank
Can't
you,
help
Sanjay.
it.
I think that were the final words for this
One thing
program.
as friends, you have noticed that you must have felt, yeah, this guy has got infinite stamina. I can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that was a very comprehensive overview about mode of project management, front end in project implementation, technology solutions, and so on. So thank you very much, and we invite. So it's Molecules to Market, a program by Portfolio Planning Plus, and we invite everyone to hit the like button, subscribe to our channels, share these episodes, and also join the platform and become a contributor to the DREAM project that we are setting up with Mr. Sanjay Gupta. Thank you very much and see you soon again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.